Right then, next video. What we're doing is having a look at Google Drive. And so far what we did in the last couple of videos is we actually created an account with Google Drive. We created a test folder that we could actually stick bits and pieces into. We first of all uploaded a JPEG, and then on the last one I talked a little bit about the potential of converting files into either the proprietary Google Drive style, which is what we've got just here, or keeping them in your more traditional Office and the difference between those. Going on to those ones, obviously the ones that are in the style which is actually for Google Drive itself in the proprietary format, you can actually modify them. And the important thing with this is that the kids, the students, can actually collaborate and work on them together. Now bear in mind the wonder of this: if you had loads and loads of students who are registered with Google Drive with their account, they can then actually work on one document altogether. Now that could be a bit chaotic, but if you had groups of say 2 or 3 students that you set a homework for to work on a particular piece of work in Google Documents, they would then all be able to sit at home and actually work on it independent of each other. They don't have to be in the same room, they don't have to be logged on at the same time. They can add to it. And the joy of this for a teacher is that you can actually then have a look and see who did what and when. So as I've done with some of my students in the past, the beauty is that you can see who did what and at what time. Now obviously the first thing you need to be able to do is actually to be able to see, or get them to actually be able to see the documents. Now the first step in that is for them to actually register, just as you would have done previously. To get these bits and pieces, they need to go to Google. And if you remember, one of the important things, and if I sign out here, is that you need to think about making sure that they actually sign up with their own actual accounts. But that account needs to be not the Gmail one, as you can see here, but I prefer to use my current email address and then get them to actually use their school address. Now the importance of this is that it makes sure that it keeps private home accounts, which may be used for whatever communication, and what is going on with school completely and utterly separate. They do obviously need to remember what they actually created, but if you've got an MLE, if you've got some sort of service where they have a school email, which most schools do, they should already be using this anyway. And they need the whatever it is at .sorvalley.leicester.sch.uk or judgemeadow.leicester.sch.uk. They just need to remember that particular part. They obviously need to create a password, and then they can sign up. Once they've actually signed up, then you can start thinking about actually getting them to use some of the documents, or to log in and actually view some of the documents. Now these can be done in lesson time, as well as if they were actually going to be using it at home. And I often use it at the same time in lesson time so that they can see bits and pieces. Now if we have a look at what I've got on here, you can see that I've got my year 10 folder just here, where I put loads of different bits. I've got subfolders in there which is about verbal feedback, revision, help videos, marking, and loads of exemplar work as well, spec guides, you name it. So they've got all this access to this all the time. But how do I give them access to it? Well, if you go over to the side just here, or indeed if you hover over one of these, but let's do it over here, the little tab that we've used before, there is this really nice simple share icon and share. Now what this does is it brings up a dialog box which allows you to see all the people that are actually shared. So all of these are actually on there, which is all very straightforward and simple. If we do the test one, at the moment I haven't got anybody that is sharing this particular one. At the moment, there's just me, M. Sutton at Saw Valley. However, I can add people, and what I'm going to do is I have an alternative account, which is my home email address, which is mark@flux3d.co.uk, and I can actually get that, and I can say, right, I want that person to be able to either can edit or can just view, and I'm going to leave it as can edit. Sometimes you might want them to only be able to view it because you don't want them to actually change anything about it, and it depends. Now remember, what we're doing is we're sharing a whole folder, so whatever goes into this folder is automatically shared with whoever's on the share list of this. And this is quite important because say if you created a folder but you wanted the feedback to only be available to one person, you have to be very careful and make sure that the share for that particular one is only for that one person. But we'll talk about that in a bit more. Share and save on there, so you can see straight away I've now shared that with myself but on my other account. Now what I can do is I can actually switch over accounts and we can have a look at that one. So if I sign out, I can then have a look at my account that I've got on here, and I should hopefully, under shared with me, I should be able to see, there we go, the test one. And we've got those. So this is exactly how they would see it as a student. As the teacher, obviously had a lot more files on there. I've shared these particular bits and pieces, and I can now actually have a look at those just as if I was a student. So you can very quickly add those people to it and indeed take off and change privileges on folders or individual parts within there. What I would suggest doing is, especially as we may have more than one person looking at this video, maybe team up with somebody else, get them who have obviously registered, create a folder, share it with somebody else within the training room or share it with somebody else that you know. Have a play around with doing that, having a go with adding people, seeing what it means as well if you actually right click and share individual files. And if you could change it as well, at the moment is owner and then maybe can comment or can view only. So maybe change those individual ones. Have a go with those. Have a play around with actually creating different sort of share group setup. And then what we'll do in the next video is I'll show you a little bit more about collaborative working.